Good afternoon. This is May 15th, 2021, and I'm getting ready for my next person that's coming on. I'm excited again. If you want to be a sponsor of the show, please get in touch with me. Also, if you want to advertise an event, your business, any of those things, please get in touch with me. You can call me 313-949-5768. You can go to my Facebook page, which is Sunshine Kamela. You can subscribe, like, and share on the YouTube channel, which is Keeping It Real Conversations with Sunshine. Again, I believe in 6 degrees of separation. It has been proven since I started this show. You are one person away, one advice away, one help away from where you need to be in your destiny. So right now, I have my lovely, lovely, lovely sister. My sister Yolanda. You're muted, baby. So my sister is here and I'm excited. She has gone above and beyond anything that I could actually think that my sister would do. What do I mean by that? My sister is, may as well say, a professional gardener. And now she has come into raising quail. Raising quail in a time where they say that there's a shortage of chicken. I told my sister I'm not really a meat eater for real, but if I ever needed some meat, I know where to go. Hello, Sister Yolanda. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You were frozen.
Oh, I don't know what's going on with that. How are you, sister?
I am good. How are you?
I can't complain. I'm so much better than I was the other day.
That is awesome to hear.
So let's ask this question. I don't think I ever asked this question. How did you get into the idea of gardening?
I don't think there was like just one particular aha and I was like, oh, I need to garden. I was always kind of interested in plants. Every year, our dad, loved to plant impatiens and all kinds of stuff in the front yard. And his front yard was his thing. Now, I didn't enjoy it, but I learned a lot. And then when I would go visit my cousin Brenda, she would always have her red, I think there were impatiens too, that she would be planting out and I would be helping her with that. So growing up, I seen people do gardening, more flower gardening. But like when we would go to Auntie Evelyn's house or Grandma Steen's house, there were always green tomatoes in the window. There was always a collard green patch somewhere. Uncle Daniel was a gardener. So it was around, but it wasn't necessarily something that someone taught me. So there was a little bit of exposure there. The first time I remember like wanting to plant a garden, we lived above Auntie Makita. And I planted a cucumber plant, a seed in the backyard, and it did horribly. Like I think I had maybe one cucumber and the leaves were all brown. So I didn't plant for a little while later, but then after I had children, gardening was kind of a fun activity that we could do together. But then I found that gardening was something that was calling me. So, you know how some people have things like they like to sing, they like, they create stuff, they have their t-shirts. And for me, it's a plant. So, if I'm having a bad day, I'm probably going to start about 20 different plants.
Okay.
If I'm having a good day, I'm probably going to start 20 different plants. So it's one of those things for me. It's kind of like my decompression time. It's not necessarily my alone time, because if you're in the garden, you are never alone. Trust me. So it's just one of those things that, called me and I kind of listened, and here I am.
Well, that was a good explanation because I don't think I've ever asked. I was just like, okay, that's my sister thing. That's, gardening. And it grew to the point I was like, wow, she's really serious about this.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was, the whole show was it's important to grow your own.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into that,
Mm-hmm.
especially since the pandemic. What is your take on really, really growing your own? What is that about?
So for me, growing your own is about knowing what's in your food, knowing what's on your food, having food that is non-GMO. And if you don't know what non-GMO is, that means food that is not genetically mutated. So GMO is genetically mutated organism, and non means it's not. So anytime you buy something organic, it's non-GMO. Or if you find food that have that little symbol on it, it's non-GMO. So if we think about our American system of food, some of the main crops is corn, soy, and wheat. And because those are high cash crops, they have their GMOs and they're sprayed with tons of pesticides. So what's in your food gets in you. So when you grow your own, you know what's in it. You knew if sprayed something on it or not. So for me, a few years ago, I had my little weight loss journey.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was super important to start to grow my own food because
Mm-hmm.
then I was more inclined to eat healthier.
Okay.
So, well, let me not say that in a negative light, because the reality is many of the things I learned on that journey, I continue to do in my life, and my health has been so much better for it, even if it's not necessarily in returns of weight, but in returns of looking at my A1C, making sure other things that were going wrong are going right because I'm eating the things that I'm growing and there's not anything on it. And it's a natural thing, because sometimes we throw around the word natural, but we really don't know what that means and what that entails. So that's why it's important to grow your own. It can be a hard thing, but it can also be an easy thing. A lot of times now when you go to Walmart, Meijer, Home Depot, they have a whole section of plants, excuse me, and they're labeled heirloom, organic. So these are things that you can buy and you don't have to start the seeds yourself. So, it can be as easy as getting literally a bucket, some potting mix, and a plant. And sometimes that's how people start, because my first real big garden was all in pots. So people were amazed at the things that I were growing in pots and buckets. So.
So when you were you went from the importance of the health thing,
Mm-hmm.
health wise, so this is just something that this is natural for you. This
Mm-hmm.
is, like, not just because you've seen it with our family, they were doing it. Me, I didn't have a green thumb. That was not any other thing of being in the kitchen. That was them two didn't
Mm-hmm.
mix with me. So I was always outside, but I was not in the garden. I was not in the dirt unless I was playing a sport.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what was the thing also that what I get to see on a regular basis with you, which I'm so happy about, is again, my niece and nephew are in the garden with you. It's a whole family thing. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just you. And so, how did you get your kids to really, really enjoy this?
Well, the thing about it, if you want kids to try food, then you should have kids grow food. So, and we know that I have a son who is differently able. He is on the spectrum, and when you have someone who is on the spectrum, typically they have certain foods that they will eat and a lot of foods that they will avoid, because it's a texture thing, it's a sensory thing. And so I just asked him one day, well, what do you want to grow? And he was like, I want to grow some carrots. And before, I couldn't get him to eat carrots. But once he planted them and he saw them growing and he harvested them, he was so proud to eat them carrots. It wasn't a battle. So, now things like he ate a salad last year Like before, that was a mm-mm. But when he helped to grow it and he helped to harvest it, he was proud to eat that salad. Never saw him eat a raw tomato before. He eat those now. And all of that is because he is in the garden with me and he's learning and he gets to pick, certain things that he wants to grow. So not just with him, even with my daughter. So they're not super picky eaters. And it's because we talk about what goes in the food. We talk about not eating meat at every meal. We talk about making sure that we know what goes into our body, making sure that we're drinking clean water, and making sure when we're growing things that we're going to grow things that we're actually going to eat, not just grow things
Just
just
to
to
be
put them
growing.
in the ground.
Okay. Now I will
Um,
say,
Let me see. I had another point I wanted to make. So beyond that, gardening is really one of those things that allows you to see how the world works and how important certain things are. So when we garden here at our house, we're not just talking about that cucumber we're going to get. We're talking about how we're going to help butterflies. We're talking about how we're going to help bees. And that all comes back around to being able to grow your own food, because without those things in our environment, you don't have food. You need pollinators. You need clean air. You need clean oxygen. And so if you take care of the things you're putting in the soil, then you're going to take care of that soul that's within you. So how you feed the earth is how you feed yourself.
good. I'm glad you said that. So my sister and my niece and nephew, this summer, they're really planning to sell what they're growing out of their garden. She already sold a couple of her pots with some of the plants in them. She didn't even have it on there 10 minutes and it was already sold.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our personal gardeners or starting gardeners in our family, we have was not really for our family, but they, partake in a garden chat that we have once a month.
Yeah, about once a month.
Once a
I
month, something like
think,
that. So if you
yeah.
ever see that on my page, this is we call the expert in growing. That we all have a garden chat and we talk about the garden. And like she just explained about, it's not just what we put in the ground. Is she's helping the butterflies. Is she's helping certain bugs and bees that help your ground. I did not know that. She has done her research. The things that help with the oxygen, the things that you should not put on your food, that actually harms not only you, but it harms the ground, it harms the bugs and things of that nature that help to pollinate um, your area. So I'm excited, not only because this is actually my natural born sister, but she has been on a journey not only with weight loss. Um, we come from some thick ones, and we love to, enjoy the wonderful food that we're now
Right, that we grew up on. Mm-hmm.
yes, what we grew up on, that sometimes we didn't know wasn't really good for our bodies. And so, with certain blood types, with certain things that run in our family that we did not know until we were older, um, now we're trying to reverse those things. I have been diagnosed, which I'm working on now, with, I believe it was type 2 diabetes, which I did not know. Some of the foods that I love to eat, which was bread, which was macaroni and cheese, all of these things that I ate an abundance of, all turn into sugar. And so this again becomes a problem. And so we have all come to the realization we need to take care of our health. If we're not healthy, we're not good to not only ourselves but no one around us. And so my sister has taken the stance on growing your own.
Mm-hmm.
If you have any questions, I'm telling you, the garden chat that we have at least once or twice a month is something that is something you need to, get on. You can have
Right.
the
It's
simplest
free.
questions.
I take questions. Sometimes it's just somebody may have a plant that isn't doing well and they want some, knowledge about it, or they have something they're thinking about growing and they want to know if it's a good idea or not. So it's just a great way to have a free discussion about plants and about growing things. Also, growing your own is breaking the cycle. Like a lot of us, especially if you grew up in Detroit, you grew up in a food desert, whether you realize it or not. And all of those things you name, bread and macaroni and cheese, most of those ingredients are processed foods. And those processed foods are made up of what I just said: corn, soy, and wheat. And when you're eating things that are laden with pesticides and chemicals, you have children who start to develop things that they shouldn't develop. And we continue to have things that you're feeding the bad stuff in your body when you're constantly eating those kinds of things. Food really should be healing. So my backyard is sometimes like a zoo. So there was a bird that just flew like right past my face. I think it was a pigeon. I don't know. But for me, it's a healing process. And I laughed every time you call me an expert, because I don't view myself as an expert. I just view myself as somebody really passionate about something that gives me peace, something that gives me joy, and something that gives me a little bit of what the world takes away. So for me, gardening and learning about plants and researching plants, I can watch YouTube videos all day about plants. I can read books all day about plants. So even when, as we were talking about the pandemic, we know that me and my husband were able to buy a house last year, and it was right when everything shut down. And so, we were blessed to be able to go through that process. But when we were looking for homes, he would go to the garage first of every home we looked at, and I would go to the backyard first to see if the area was suitable for me to be able to have a garden. And if it wasn't the house for us. So, when you're even looking at your own space, like some people, oh, I can't garden. I got bunnies, I got deer. You can garden, but it takes some planning. It takes some research. And just a little bit of that goes a long way.
And which is very important. So, can you do a tour of your garden, please?
Yeah, so I'll do a tour, and
Oh, and
I
while
will.
we're doing that, while she's getting ready, I did not know that you can actually move your garden. Like she
You're
had a garden at
frozen
her
again.
previous house. And so at this
So
house,
I'll start the tour once I see you're unfrozen.
oh, I didn't know it was froze. So she took what she had at her other house and brought it to this house. And then she's added on.
All right. So what I'll talk about a little bit, because I won't spend a whole lot of time on certain things, but I grow in many different ways. So I have green stalks. So that's what these are here. And green stalks is just a form of vertical growing, which means you're not growing in the ground. You're growing up, so you have more room. So you can see I already have strawberries and things like that. And these things, or some of these things, were planted out all the way back in February, and they can go through the frost. So we've been eating lettuce and kale and wow. So here, and it was so funny because my students they're learning about pollination and plants. So I brought them out to the garden vertically, and I just asked them questions like, what plant is this? And what plant is that? And so for them, like, they've never seen what a potato looks like when it's growing. So they had no clue. They've never seen what a strawberry looks like when it's growing. They didn't believe me when I said that there are red lettuce. So when you grow your own, you have more variety of foods that you can pick from because you're choosing the seed.
Okay.
All right, let's see here. So I, when I see it, when I'm having a day, I come out here and plant stuff. So I have some strawberry towers that I've been planting and working on. And when I was designing my garden, I knew I wanted some fruit trees. So I consider this part here my orchard.
Mm-hmm.
So in the orchard, we have a peach tree, we have 2 apple trees, we have a plum tree, and I have 2 figs that are literally grown in buckets that came from my old house. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the fig right there.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we have 2 apple trees is because you have 2 different kinds in order to have pollination. So certain things you can have one of something and still get fruit or vegetables, but other things you got to have more than one. So, and also in this orchard, there's raspberries as well. So as you can see, I still grow in pots. I also grow in raised beds. So there's not a whole lot because we had that frost. So there isn't a whole bunch growing right now. This is a perennial bed. And these yellow flowers are actually turnips that I let go to seed from last year. So I'm letting that get all pollinated. That way it'll make some seeds. Okay. And this is a strawberry patch. It also has onion in it. There's not much growing there yet. I have currant. I have berries, but I also plant things for the palm. I have echinacea. And this bed here is what we've been harvesting from. So there's a lot that was planted back in February. But last year, I planted some potatoes late in the season and it didn't sprout. And this year, it sprouted. And I was not expecting that. So this right here is a potato plant. Okay. I also have grapevines grown in pots. I have another raspberry patch that way. So there's not much growing yet because we're just getting into the warm season. And then this covered bed has tomatoes, eggplant, and peppers. And I was able to plant this stuff a little earlier because it's covered. And then part of our garden ecosystem is my quail. So this is my outdoor pen, and there's 4 hens in there. And then I have 4 hens and 1 roof in the garage. So for the last thing I'll do, I'm gonna go quickly harvest some lettuce and we're gonna feed it to the quail. Even the quail knows what's good for you. So like for them, quail is like our chocolate. Okay. So when you harvest things, you don't have to harvest the whole plant. If you take a little bit from each one, you'll be able to harvest from this from the whole season. All right, how much time we got?
You still got 30 minutes.
Oh, okay. So while I'm doing that, we have also been transforming our front yard into an edible landscape. All right, so here you go. You like the snack? Getting about 7 eggs a day. It's kind of hard to see, but yeah, they're eating no lettuce. Their favorite thing. And it's kind of fun because I'm also teaching my daughter about quail and how to take care of them. They eat. I don't know what I did. I was trying to turn my camera back around. So for me, I kind of take the role of she's learning environmental science. She's learning how to be a zoologist. She's learning how to see what is on the inside of a quail. Like, so she's learning quite a bit. Also in my garden that you didn't see, I have blackberry bushes. I have blueberry bushes. In the front, there's rosemary, there's oregano, there's sage, there's lavender. So the front will be things that, deer don't like to eat, but things you can still use in your garden. I even have green onion in the front, and it has pretty purple flowers. So it looks ornamental, but it's also edible.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it. Just like I said, there's not a whole lot to see. I harvested a whole bunch of turnip greens. You can say hi.
Hi, Auntie Camila.
Hello.
So, Mari, what's your favorite?
How are you?
Good.
What's your favorite thing to eat in the garden?
The lettuce.
The lettuce. Okay. Do you like the quail?
Yep.
Well, see,
Where's
there you go.
At?
In the house.
Go get her.
So I'm excited. I look forward to our garden chats, and for those, usually I do the Zoom link, and it's usually on a Saturday. Usually from like 11 to right before I have to do my show. That we sit and we talk. We ask her questions. She tell us what's out there to really help grow the sprays that's good for your garden. For me, my backyard, you have to really see, my garden, where my backyard isn't really good for gardening because of how the sun.
Well, you think it's not good for gardening, but there are plants that you can grow in the shade. But we'll talk about that another time. Here, come sit here. All right, here's my other gardening quill expert. Hello.
How are you?
Good.
You look like you just woke up.
No. We're early birds here. Some of us have been up since 6:30 in the morning for no reason.
Oh.
So, Amira, what's your favorite thing to eat in the garden?
I want to say the green onion.
You like the green onions?
Mm-hmm.
And what was the plant that you wanted to plant a lot of this year?
Brown cherries.
Brown cherries. See, if you never went through a seed catalog, I would never have heard of a ground cherry. I was literally going through
brown or ground.
Ground, GROUND. Ground cherry, and they're in the tomato family. But it kind of grows like a tomatillo, so it has like a little papery cover on it. But they're kind of sweet and sour at the same time. They kind of taste like pineapple a little bit. Yeah. So me and Amira, we make smoothies out of them. You can eat them fresh. We enjoy them. But have we never been gardening, that isn't something we would have ever introduced into our diet.
Okay. What about what is it when you do the jars?
Hydroponics? Or are you talking about sprouting?
No, when you like you did your pickles.
Oh, fermenting.
Yes.
Okay, so that I learned from cousin Dion. He had a book he was talking about. I forget the name of it, but I read the book, and it had all kinds of recipes where you can ferment different things. And so that's our goal this year, like grow things that will be able to preserve. Fermented things you can preserve for a little while. It's not like canning things, but fermented foods is also really good for your body. And then if you're growing your own food, that means you're fermenting things that don't have pesticides on it. So, okay. I left the garage open and the root is crowing, so I have to go close the garage. So I'll hop back to the pandemic and how we even got started in quail. I always kind of wanted chickens when I kind of started talking about gardening. And so when we were looking for houses, it's really hard to find a city that allows chickens. And if they do allow chickens, they only allow 2 or 3. Because they can be noisy, they can be loud, and chickens need a space to roam. And I came across a video one day about how you can have meat and eggs in a backyard and not have to use as much space. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I got interested in quail. And so I didn't like run out one day and like, oh, I'm gonna buy some hatching eggs. I literally got some books from the library. I read books, I watched videos, I joined a Facebook group just to figure out if it's something that was good for me. Organic meat is expensive. Throughout the pandemic, over where I live, they was most definitely limiting the amount of meat you can buy if meat was available. So my thinking is, pandemic or not, no, I can't provide 100% of our food, but I could provide some of our food. And the food that I'm providing, I know is healthy food. And whether it's the quail or the plants, I know that I'm taking my time to treat things with respect and treat things well.
Well, I will say, my husband tasted the quail, and he definitely was like, when you selling them, I will buy them. They were delicious. Mm-hmm. So that same day, I had read that they were talking about it was a shortage of chicken, and some of the restaurants are no longer selling the wingdings or chicken mm-hmm. wings or things of that nature because the chicken has gone up in price. And so again, I'm not really a meat. I'm seafood, but I'm not mm-hmm. really. I don't care for chicken like that. And I was like, well, trying to be funny. If you ever wanted some meat or some chicken or something close mm-hmm. to it, I know where to get the meat from. Mm-hmm. And so, again, it's very important to grow your own. I would have never thought that she would be doing this, mm-hmm. but this is definitely what she's doing. I'm excited to see what the next adventure will be when it comes to what she's going to do. If my father was still alive, he would be definitely probably trying to spend a night at my sister's house. Because he would be, the whole neighborhood would have flowers everywhere. I was looking outside in front of my house today like, Dad need to be here to fix this because this is...
I mean, you think about I remember me and Quentin going to Easter Market with him when they have like the Mother's Day flower sale. Or is it around Mother's Day? I can't remember.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure they still have it this year. So, even though I've never had a family member that had a garden like mine per se, just going down here and seeing all the different plants, and, that is part of, my experience. And no matter where I go, I'm always going to be planting something. And, whether you're a gardener or, it doesn't matter what you do, being a gardener is kind of like being a teacher. Like, you can plant a seed, but it doesn't mean it's going to grow. You really got to watch and see what it needs. And that's part of everything in life. If you sit and watch long enough, you'll get enough information to see what you need to do next. Mm-hmm.
And that's good. For those who do not know, my sister is professionally a teacher. And so, again, with her harvesting and taking her family under her wing to not only educate people at her job, people in the neighborhood, her children take eggs and stuff to their teachers. And so it's good to see, a family that of course sticks together will always, move forward. But again, they're healthy eating. She posts a lot of her salads. She posts a lot of her dinners, breakfast, lunch. And some of the things that I would have never thought that I would eat, um, here I am eating them, and it don't taste too bad.
And if you do try something that you don't like, the fun thing about gardening, you can always find a different variation of something. So if you don't like Brussels sprouts, you find something in that family that you might be willing to try. And you'll get some of those same nutrients that your bodies needs. So, gardening is like being in a science lab. You kind of see what happens.
Never thought of it that way. But it's like I
You're
said, it's
frozen
very
again.
important to know what you're eating. We didn't understand growing up when we would see children, babies, um, developing parts earlier than they're supposed to. Um, and then there was different diseases that was affected by some of the things that we were ingesting. And so we have to be careful, even with some of this fast food that we eat. Um, they have done something to it, and we're eating it. I have long been over, pork, a lot of the beef, and I was a hamburger person. So eventually, all of that has to cut down, and it was more of what I need to eat to heal my body naturally. Um, So I'm thankful again for the conversation. Like I said, when we do the garden chats, you guys come on. Any questions that you have about starting a garden, getting some things that maybe you tried and it never grew, trying to figure out what is it, is it the soil that you use, was it the area you planted it in, all of those type of questions my sister will definitely tell you. Again, there are certain
I will tell you
sprays.
what I know.
Yeah, what she knows, she will definitely share. My niece and nephew are really going this summer into starting their business with, gardening, to start selling what they have, what they actually put their hands to. Not only that, my sister is also teaching them entrepreneurship at a young age. Um, this is very important for, how it goes. Start off young, learning about the things to do to run your own business. Who knows what my niece or nephew might do with the education that they have right now. This is not their first year. They've been doing this for a minute. So again, not too long ago, if you guys seen the wood chips, they were out as a family, spreading wood chips out all over the garden. So, like I said, this is a family thing that they do. This is what they do. So I'm excited about that. Like I said, I have no idea when she talked about quail. I'm like, you about to do what? She's like,
Yeah. Nobody believes me but Amira. My mom was like, oh, no, you're playing, right? No, I'm not playing. Husband was like, you serious? I said, yeah. And he said, okay, I'm gonna build you an enclosure for him. Weeks went by. Next thing he know, I'm like, so my eggs are supposed to come in the mail today. Your eggs? Your eggs for what? My eggs for my quail. Oh, I guess I better build it now. Oh yeah. So the reality is sometimes you gotta show people more than be about the talking. And I think for me personally, people are always surprised by things I do, but the reality is for people who really know me, when I'm passionate about something, I'm going to take my time to learn about it. And if it works out, we're going to continue. And if not, we'll go a different course. So, that's for me, this has been a great experiment in life. I've learned so much from gardening. I've learned so much patience from gardening, and I feel like I'm getting more joy from it every time I come out, especially in the summertime. Ooh, I got strawberries today. Ooh, I got cucumbers today. Like, at one point last summer, I was having a problem because I had too many cucumbers. So, it's not a bad problem to have. I'm hoping to learn a little bit more about preserving food. So that's not an area that I'm an expert in at all. But through gardening, I've learned things like how to make my own marinara sauce, pasta sauce. I call me and my kids flexitarians, which means we are not vegetarians. We eat meat, we eat seafood, but it's not something that has to be every meal. Every
Right.
meal doesn't revolve around meat. It revolves around fruits and vegetables.
Right. I have tasted some of her fermented cucumbers, which of course comes into pickles. And they were definitely delicious. I have eaten from her garden as well. Some of the things that she has grown. And so I wish that my backyard was feasible to do something of the things.
It is. I'm telling you, so that's what I'm saying. So if you have a space and you don't have sun, or even if you have a lot of trees, you have the perfect backyard to grow lettuce. Lettuce only needs a little bit of light. So, if when you go in your backyard, if you can see your hand in front of your face, you got enough light to grow lettuce. Even if you don't have a backyard, you can get something like an arrow garden. Even if your backyard isn't good for growing things, you can get you some grow bags or grow buckets and put it on your front porch, your decoration to be your front porch garden. Those are, if that's what you want to do. So gardening is one of those things that you also have to reserve some time for, because plants will tell you what they need. When they don't get enough sun, if they don't get enough water, plants are like children. You have to watch and observe. There's a relationship there. You got to watch and see what's going on so you can see how you can help. You can garden anywhere. And if you can't garden inside your house, start sprouting some stuff. You don't need sun to grow sprouts.
Didn't know that. So what is the next adventure that you're getting ready to do?
So the only thing that I plan on adding to the garden this year, I have two long 2x8 metal raised beds that I am adding. And along my back fence, where those will be going, we will be adding a butterfly garden. So we did milkweed in the front last year, but this year I've been researching some native plants. Native plants are better for your pollinators. It's better for your garden because you don't have to worry about watering it as much because it's native to the area. So we're gonna have a whole area with something called Joe Pye weed, different kinds of milkweed, dill, and different kind of things that will support pollinators. Then the last thing I want to add to the garden and be done with adding things, I want to create like a dragonfly garden, or you need a water feature for that to encourage the dragonflies to come in. And the reason I want to do that is because my backyard, at times, the mosquitoes will run you out of it. And so instead of me paying someone to spray my backyard, I want to encourage dragonflies to come visit my backyard because they eat mosquitoes. So when I'm thinking about things for my garden, I am thinking in terms of also how to be friendly to the earth, friendly to the environment, and not just produce food for myself and my family. So we also compost. So, we've added that. I probably will add something else in terms of that. But other than that, my garden is kind of one of those things, like I'll plan things out and then I'll go to the store and I'll see a lonely plant and it's calling me and I have nowhere to put it. And it's, like kind of like the cat lady. I'm the plant lady. Like I got to rescue it. I got to come home and find a place to put it because I can't just let it go to waste. I mean, at least it's outside and I have the space for it. So, sometimes you start off with a plan, but then, it kind of takes a different detour. And that's the fun thing about a garden. You kind of see what you end up with.
I understand. I mean, let me see what else. Hmm. What about the other? I think we talked about this before. Have you tried the watermelons and melons?
So I've tried to grow, I forget what kind of watermelon they're like a personal kind of watermelon. But the critters get to them first. So I no longer grow melons. I've tried cantaloupe before and I've only gotten one cantaloupe. So because I am in a city, when you have things like watermelon and cantaloupe, um, things like possums and raccoons smell that they're ripe before you do. So, those things are kind of hard to grow. Um, if you have the space, try it out. It didn't work out well for me. And that's the fun thing about gardening, depending on where you are. Certain things may work really well for you. For me, I don't plant corn, I don't plant sunflowers, and I don't plant watermelon. Just because, the critters will overtake it if you're not planting a lot of something.
Okay. Wow. Well, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this conversation that we're having with my baby sister about growing your own food while she started this and while she continues to do this. It's not just it's healthy for you, but mainly this is she's planting seeds with her children. So her children, I'm sure, will take this over. And also it helps our family and anybody who wants to know the information to start doing and taking care of your own self. And finding out the information what's good for you to eat, and be more healthier. So thank you, my sister, for
You are
coming
welcome.
on and talking to us about the importance of growing your food, your own.
No problem. Anytime.
I love you.
I love you too.
And I will talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.